All right. Man, what an environment. You know what I mean? To have a practice, your first practice back in New Orleans, to have all these people out here, to watch our guys, go to work. I think that was pretty cool to see. So we had a lot of fun out here. We got some good work done. Obviously it was a shells practice, so it wasn't, the same physicality with that we were, doing in a lot of those practices out in California. But it's good to be back. We're excited about being back, and we still got a lot of work to do, and that's what we're in the process doing now. So.
You feel the energy in the place during this. I mean, different than what you've been used to for the last 4 weeks.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, we feel our fans. We feed off our fans. And so, you definitely feel it. I mean, there's a distinct difference between the atmosphere of practice, the surrounding atmosphere of practice out here today, than what we were kind of dealing with out there in California, and yet I feel like we got accomplished a lot out there.
Yeah, how good was to see Yulman back out here?
Good. Yeah. I mean, he was back out here today. I think we'll kind of slowly but surely start to ramp him up. And do a little bit more with him tomorrow, a little bit more the next day, and so it'll be good because he's a player that he needs to. We need him to be out here. We need him. We need Shaheed. We need some of these guys that we're counting on in the passing game, so that we can really start to get the timing and the rhythm in the passing game that I think we're not quite where we need to be right now, and a lot of that is some of the guys that we anticipate, counting on haven't been available.
How much do you value distance from 65 from a kicker versus kicks that are maybe a little bit closer that you might be practicing or taking more frequently?
Well, look, I mean, yeah, it's nice to know, that you can knock one in from 65. I think we kicked 6 in that deal, and I think he was 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought he kicked the ball really well. In the practice environment, and look, he's a talented player, and yeah, I think being able to make one from 65, I think that's great, but we're not going to attempt a ton of 65 yarders. So it's really, to me, what are we really getting inside of 50? In the consistency in that range, because that's where a majority of the kicks are going to come.
Have you seen him turn a corner at all with that?
Yeah, look, I think he's improved from where he was when he first got here to where he's at now. I think he's improved significantly. There's still, some consistency that we've got to see, but yeah, I like some of the things I'm seeing from him for sure.
Dennis, Jordan Mims catch down the sidelines in that last period. I know you've said nice things about him throughout training camp, but that play and what you've seen out of him, how would you describe that play?
Yeah, look, I think that was a good play. And I've seen him do some good things for us. And I think he's in a battle to, be on the roster and be one of the 53. And I think, this week will be important for him, just like the other preseason games have been. And, no different than I think James Robinson's kind of in that same boat. Cabote's got to show us what he can do this week. So I think for a lot of these guys, there's some spots that we're still, evaluating, and so I think this is an important week for a lot of guys.
What is Chase doing?
What's that? He's got a personal issue. I wouldn't say issue. He's dealing with something personal. It's actually a positive thing, but I'll let him break that news.
And then Rico Payton?
He's dealing with a shoulder.
Dennis, with Charlie Smith, how hard is it to overcome knowing the guy just learned how to play football a year ago? I mean, I'm not joking when I say that. Like, is that in your head, like knowing how inexperienced he is when you're evaluating?
Yeah, look, I think that's part of it. I mean, I think, anytime you're going through the evaluation process, and the unknown is always, difficult, and so, and like I said, where he's at now and where he was, back in the spring, he's much more consistent now than where he was, and so, hopefully he can continue to improve in that area.
Is Alvin getting closer? I thought he was doing some stuff today.
He's out here today. I think walked through today. Hopefully that all went good, and I would hope that we get him out at least for some limited type practice tomorrow.
Yeah, we saw Oli Udo, Oli Udo and I think Virgil take right tackle and left guard spots. I think some center for Virgil. Just what went into the decision for that? Are those spots still kind of open in your mind?
Yeah, look, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I think we got two guys right now that I'd say, without a doubt, we know exactly what we're getting, and that's Caesar and Eric. I feel very comfortable that Tolly's going to be fine over there on the left side, and I think we're still evaluating the left guard, the right tackle. I saw some things that were improved out of Trevor this week, which was positive to see. I think this will be another great week for him to maybe build some confidence off that performance. So, but I think Oli's a guy that, as we've gone through and seeing a significant amount of snaps from him in training camp, which we didn't get an opportunity to see this spring, look, he's a guy that we want to take a look at that spot. And, those guys will compete, and we'll see what happens.
What's standing out to you about Oli so far?
Well, look, I think he's a good athlete. He's got size, he's got length, and so I think those are good qualities for an offensive tackle, an offensive lineman in general. I think there's some things that he can do better in terms of finish, and I think that's the one area that I want to see improvement in, just his finish of every single play, so that's what I think he's working on. Trevor, I think, is just more about the consistency. Look, we'll let this kind of last week of training camp kind of play out, and we'll have to make some decisions next week.
And is A.T. Perry on a snap limit at all for his ankle, or is
No.
that just
So Dennis, guys on the bubble then, what do you want to see this week and into the final game? What do they have to do?
I just think guys got to go out and make plays. And that's what this game's all about, right? When the lights come on and you have an opportunity to make a play, do you make the play? And it's really not that complicated. It's not that difficult. Like, you either did or you didn't, And the nature of our league is when you're put into positions to make plays, okay, then you have to make those plays. And if you make those plays, then consistently, then we got a spot for you. And if you don't, then the nature of the business says we're going to be looking for somebody else.
Dennis, what have you made of Foster's camp so far?
Foster Moreau? Yeah, I think he's had a good camp. Look, he was limited in the spring. I think he's moving around a lot better right now than where he was at in the spring. I think, look, he's a guy that just is consistent in what he does. I probably wouldn't say there's anything flashy about what he does, but he consistently gets his job done.
Has anyone surprised you throughout training camp that you maybe didn't expect to perform as well as they are?
Yeah, those are always hard questions. Look, my expectations is that they all make all the plays, So I'd say there's a handful of young guys that have done some things that have caught my attention, and then we'll kind of see where we're at come after this week. Come Tuesday, we'll make our final cuts and kind of get down to a 53-man roster.
Yeah, with the kind of emphasis on situational work recently with games, it seems like there's been. What do you make of the success that you've seen so far in those red zone drills in particular?
In terms of offensively, defensively? Yeah. Well, look, I thought it paid off in the game the other day. I think our ability to run the football in the red zone, I think, is important to having red zone success. I thought we did a good job of that on Sunday. And so, yeah, look, the key is when you get down in the red area, whether it be offensively or defensively, how many times defensively can we make our opponent have to kick field goals, or can we take the ball away? And then offensively, it's about scoring touchdowns. You're not going to win a lot of games if you're having to settle for a ton of field goals down there in the red area. You got to take advantage of your opportunities.
With the emphasis that was kind of put towards the end of the season that Derek talked about on the red zone, do you feel that that momentum is translated over this camp, or is it
I would
more-
say totally different scheme, a lot of new players. I wouldn't say there's a lot of carryover there. Certainly that's an area of emphasis, and we'll place a high importance value on red zone snaps and production in the red zone.
Thank you
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.